Dragons. Oh yeah. I'm gonna take this mask off. This last time I did a review wearing a mask the entire time, I got a headache from not wearing my glasses. Okay, so we are here to talk about another dragon book, and that is a sequel to a dragon book that I really enjoyed called Seraphina. This book is called Shadow Scale. Let's read a synopsis. Alright, so now there's a kitty on my chair next to me who you can't see, but it's Jane and he's mad because I'm sitting in his chair. Anyway, here's a synopsis of Shadow Scale from Goodreads. The Kingdom of Gored, a world where humans and dragons share life with an uneasy balance. And those few who are both human and dragon must hide the truth. Seraphina is one of these, part girl, part dragon, who is reluctantly drawn to the politics of her world. When the war breaks out between the dragons and humans, she must travel the lands to find those like herself, for she has an inexplicable connection to all of them, and together they will be able to fight the dragons in powerful, magical ways. As Seraphina gathers this motley crew, she is pursued by humans who want to stop her. But most terrifying is another half-dragon, who can creep into people's minds and take them over. Until now, Seraphina has kept her mind safe from intruders, but that also means she's held back her own gift. It's time to make a choice, cling to the safety of her old life, or embrace a powerful new destiny. So you all know that I really enjoyed Seraphina. I like a good dragon book now and then, and I thought Seraphina brought something new and interesting to the table, not the least of which was a main character who I really enjoyed. However, sadly, I was highly unimpressed by Shadow Scale. Wow, and I'm kind of sad that it's only a 2-book series, because it felt like Shadow Scale could maybe be a middle book building up to something greater, but it's not, and I don't understand. So let's talk about Shadow Scale. This is going to be spoilery because I'm going to talk about stuff I didn't like, and that tends to be specific spoilery things. One of the biggest problems with this book is that it dragged. It dragged. Like, Seraphina had a slow start, but this one never started at all. It just went on and uninteresting thing after uninteresting thing. She's traveling a lot, and traveling can be problematic to write and keep it interesting, and unfortunately the author of this book didn't. Because of this, all sense of urgency went right out the window. Like, we ended the last book on the cusp of a dragon war, with humans who are unprepared to fight dragons because we have gotten rid of all of our dragon slayers. I say we as though I am there. But the humans have gotten rid of all of their dragon slayers, all of their dracomachists, and so we, humans, are screwed. And then in this book, half the time we sort of forget the impending dragon war. It's like the Kingdom of Gored is in huge trouble, and we got time to float around all these different places and talk to all these different people. There's no urgency. Another of my biggest problems with this book is that my favorite character, Oma, is not in it really at all, and this distressed me so much so that by the end I was just like, what happened to him at the end? I didn't even care. That's how, like, I was like, you know what, if they're gonna just take him away from me, then fine. He's not even my favorite character anymore, he's just gone. And you remember how I said in the first book that I had no trouble identifying the different characters, and I liked all of them, and I wanted to have, like, different stories starring all of them? In this one, you meet all of these new Itiasari, and I was excited because I was like, oh, this author does characters really well, and I'm gonna love all of these characters. And we didn't get to know any of them well enough to care about them. Like, they die, and I didn't care. I didn't remember which was which half the time. It was like somebody took away this author's ability to write good and interesting side characters, just snatched it away from her. When we finally got to the city where Abdo is from, Abdo, one of my other favorite characters, was in this book, and although he didn't get a ton to do, and then later he gets incapacitated, but we spent a lot of time in Abdo City, and it was cool. It, again, destroyed the sense of urgency that they were just hanging out here, just doing stuff at whatever speed they kind of felt like. I think they were supposed to have a deadline, but I never felt like they were on a deadline. It was just sort of Seraphina drifting around. But it was cool to see Abdo City, and it was cool to have such a multicultural cast, so I guess there's that. Sometimes it could feel a little forced, though. Like, the author was, like, shoving them in your face, like, look, look, I have brown people in my story! Yay! But I did like Abjo's people because they have a really interesting language, especially when it comes to gendering. You kind of use like a blanket pronoun for people if you don't know what pronoun they use, and then when you get to know them a little better, you can ask, how may I pronoun you, and they will tell you what of the myriad pronouns that this language has they would like to be called. And there is a trans character, and I love her, and it is a really excellent portrayal, I think, of a culture that's very accepting of gender fluidity and not the gender norms that we kind of have in our society. And I actually really like that. It didn't feel, I mean, it felt a little bit like shoved in my face, but not really all that much, and I enjoyed it. Okay, this is why I felt like the multiculturalness was kind of shoved in my face. It turns out that the dragon's natural skin color when they turn into a human is brown, and if they want to look white, they can do so by forcing their blood, which is silver, closer to their skin, which is kind of weird. You know, and I don't have a problem that their, you know, base color is brown. I just want to know why. Like, they're dragons, so why don't they turn into, like, blue people? Like, why isn't the base color of the human that they turn into green, or red, or pink, or something? Like, why do they turn into dark-skinned people? Why is that their natural state? I don't understand. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about Seraphina and how disappointed I was with her in this book. Again, if you remember my last review, I loved Seraphina because she was clever, she was crafty, she was intelligent, she was dogged. She was like, I need to solve this problem, I'm going to solve it myself if no one will help me. She was a liar. Like, she was still a good guy, but she wasn't always shiny and good. In this one, Seraphina's sharp edge was completely gone. She was turned into like this whiny, classic heroine who has very little agency of her own and just does not much but sit around moping and feeling sorry for herself. I don't know if this is a second book thing, but I've noticed this often in second books where you'll have a strong female character in the first book. In the second book, I think the author maybe gets afraid that they've written a Mary Sue. Like, oh man, she's too strong, she's gonna have to have an emotional meltdown of some kind in the second book, and that reduces her from the clever character that she was into the stereotype you were trying to avoid. Enough of this emo shit, Seraphina. You were a badass. Solve problems, get shit done. That's what you did. It didn't matter what was in your way. It annoys me so much. She's so damaged. She finds out that she can't do the mind fire thing, and she's like, oh, I thought I was the special, and now I found out that I'm not the special. But I have lots of friends, except for I can't keep those friends because it turns out you can't just tear people away from their lives because you feel like it. It's just like, she annoyed me so much in this book, and I wanted my old Seraphina back. And this whole book is about her trying to free her mind, essentially. Free your mind and the rest will follow. Which is fine, except it makes her really insular and caring only about herself a lot of the time. Like, she feels bad that stuff is happening to other people, but she's not gonna do anything about it, really? Like, really? And of course, once she does free her mind, she goes back to being the all-powerful special that she spent this entire book realizing that she wasn't. Okay, we're going to talk about the ending, and then we're going to talk about the villain, because I have a lot about the villain. An odd love-hate relationship with this villain. So let's talk about the ending. The ending just fell flat on its face. Like, after such a slow build, it all culminated into this super awkward battle. And it was a huge deus ex machina with this giant god creature. So, like, Seraphina does all this work to unlock her mind, and then it doesn't even matter all that much at the end, except to reveal that, yes, once again, she is very powerful and she is the special. But it doesn't matter because this giant creature who wasn't going to help her showed up to help her anyway. And she didn't barely have to do anything. Like, it frustrated me so much. The victory wasn't even hers. And, she gets a cool new power at the end, but doesn't even need to use it because a giant god thing shows up and saves the day. Also, love saved the day a little bit. Again. I'm fine with having a pacifist character. I'm fine with having a character who looks for another way to solve the problem besides punch in face. She goes up against the villain, And Seraphina is a pacifist, and I have several pacifist friends, so I understand that, you know, you just don't even reach for that, you know, like, I'm sitting here going, just punch her in her stupid face, punch her right in her face and teach her a lesson, but Seraphina's not gonna do that. Okay, but if you're gonna have a pacifist character, she should have something else besides just love to save the day. Can she not save the day with intelligence? Please? It seems like female characters and male characters, if they are not gonna hit people, then love is their only alternative. Where are all my smart characters at? Where are they at? The whole thing with the dragon leader and Esco was completely random. Like, they had sex and she's gonna lay an egg, and I don't understand why this was in the story at all, especially since there's not gonna be a third book, supposedly, so... why? No idea. And that's not the only love thing that was weird. So partway through this book, I kind of had this joking thought like, you know, what if Princess Griselda's gay? Wouldn't that be weird and, you know, out of left field? What if she is? And then it turned out to be true, or she's at least bi, because she kisses Seraphina and she's like, I love you, and so does Kiggs. And Seraphina's like, oh, okay, but I still love Kiggs. And then Kiggs and Griselda get married because of politics, and then Seraphina's gonna be Kiggs' lover on the side. And everyone is really okay with this. They made this weird, awkward love triangle, but it's a different kind of love triangle. It's like, oh good, everybody wants Seraphina. Women want her, men want her. What is going on, and why is this here? Like, if she can't be with Kiggs, except for, you know, just to be his mistress on the side, whatever. I guess that's more realistic for the time period. It's fantasy, so we can do whatever we want, but okay. Whatever, she can be his mistress on the side, they can be in love, he can be in fake love with Griselda for the eyes of the crowd, but why? It's super awkward, and I don't know how it serves the plot, and everything in this book can be summed up with boring and super awkward. And that's another reason this book feels like a middle book instead of a final book, because Seraphina, like, doesn't get a happy ending, but she doesn't get, like, a super sad ending either. She gets an ending that feels like it's gonna continue, and that's what confuses me. Because she's got this thing with her uncle, and she's like, well, maybe someday he'll remember me, because he left this mind pearl. And there's a thing with the ring, she's got a ring with a pearl on it that he left, but it turned out to be just to tell her that he has made a mind pearl, which allows the dragon who's had his memory wiped to remember something. But the ring isn't the trigger for the mind pearl, so what the fuck, why is the ring there when she could have guessed he would have made a mind pearl anyway? This is so confusing. And it feels like it's ready for another book, and the war with the dragons just ended after the god thing showed up. The dragons were like, okay, guess we are done fighting, and I was like, no you're not. The thing that you were fighting over had nothing to do with the god guy. Sloppy. Sloppy, sloppy, sloppy. Okay, let's talk about the one thing that I kind of liked about this book, and that is the villain Janula. I loved when Seraphina was describing how she first met Janula and how she slowly let Janula into her mind, and I was like gleefully laughing the entire time. I was enjoying it way more than I should, because I was like, you are letting a psychopath into your brain. Oh, this is gonna be good. Literal psychopath Janula worming her way into stupid, naive Seraphina's brain. Unfortunately, because the book was so long and dragged so much, the villain lost a lot of her potency because it just kept going. And she just kept getting random abilities and powers, and she just, like, started getting way better at controlling people suddenly for some reason, even though she'd been doing it most of her life. And her motives were a little confusing to me. Guess she just wanted to take over everything? Going to take over the world! The other thing that bothered me is, okay, she has these mind powers, so she can control other half-dragons, and possibly dragons as well a little bit. Maybe, it's not clear. I think she's just really persuasive. She's a psychopath, and people who are psychopaths are good at finding ways to manipulate people. But everyone, mice in the castle, believe her and go along with her. They are all tricked by her except for Seraphina, and I don't understand why. Like, she has this power to project this, like, white fire around her, and people, humans, are like, oh, she's a saint, she's holy. But every single human is taken in by that? Like, is the mind fire doing something else besides just look really cool? And she, you know, is good at pretending to be wise, and she's got these sob stories and everything, and I can see how she would be convincing, but not to every single person, including, like, dragons that see her from a distance. Logical science dragons see her do the mind fire thing from a distance and are like, oh my gosh, she must be something important. And I was like, what? Like, I could definitely see her being very clever, very manipulative, definitely getting many people to her side, but not everyone except Seraphina. I mean, including the people that Seraphina warned that Janula was evil. She's like, Janula's evil and this is what she's gonna do. And the people are like, okay, we're ready. And then Janula does the thing that Seraphina said she was gonna do, and the people are like, we believe Janula now! I love Janula, but she's too perfect at being evil. And then, of course, what would have been an amazing climax to the book is, okay, Seraphina once met Janula a long time ago and foolishly let Janula into her mind. And ever since then, Seraphina has locked down her mind, has been keeping this garden, which she thinks is her mind, but in reality she's been locking herself in the garden as well, pretty much is my understanding. And so she has to free herself from this garden, but with it comes this fear that she will be vulnerable again. And through this entire book, she has been avoiding going into her head to find Janula, because Janula was so powerful and could take her over. So what I wanted, and what would have been an amazing final battle, is for Seraphina and Janula's, like, wills to fight each other, like consciousnesses to fight each other. She finally gives up and she goes into her own head and she seeks out Janula, and she has to use her strength of mind and cleverness to defeat Janula's strength of mind and manipulative evilness. Wouldn't that have been awesome? Instead, Seraphina's like, oh, my power stretches so far and I can see all the world, and then a giant god creature shows up, picks up Janula, and takes her away to parts unknown. Just, I can't even, and I'm so mad because it had such potential. And I loved Seraphina in the previous book, and why is she like this now? Okay, so, I guess I'm done sharing my disappointment with you about Shadowscale. And I'm mad that there's not a third book because I really want it to redeem itself. So anyway, what were your thoughts on Seraphina and Shadowscale? Leave a comment below, let me know, are there any other great dragon books that you love that I should check out? Cool, let me know, tell me about them in the comments. Oh, and real quick, if you can't get enough of my beautiful face, I'm also a member of a gaming channel called PariahCast, links in the doobly-doo. If you want to see me do weekly top 5 Wednesdays about video games, check that shit out. Okay, bye.